Good morning, I'm YourPlayerTwo, and if you're new here, welcome. Normally I do this stream every morning at 8 a.m. on weekdays, and generally talk about content that is either inspiring, informative, or encouraging for other people who run gaming channels. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back this morning. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, or I guess the big topic for today, is how to start a gaming channel when you're just shy. And one of the things that got me thinking about this was I talked to some people recently who were really excited about video games. Well, they liked the idea of starting a channel, but they had a lot of hesitation about it because they were just, again, not lazy people, not, stupid people, not talentless people. But rather, they just had some anxiety or apprehension or just a shyness about them that made it something they didn't necessarily want to pursue or thought that they couldn't pursue because they didn't think that they would be well suited to it. Dad, good morning. Nightcore, what's up, man? How you doing? Sorry, I'm a little... No, I just started, man. You're not late at all. Kirk, what's up, man? How you doing today? Thanks for coming back. Yeah, it's no big deal, man. We're just getting started, so... but yeah, and this was just something that, and I think it's especially prevalent for gamers, right? Because for a lot of people, gaming is sort of an escape for better or for worse. I think that could be a positive thing or a negative thing depending on how much you get into it. But in turn, because I think that gaming sort of has a natural attraction for people who tend to be a little bit more introverted, a little bit more shy. They may love consuming the content that other people put out on YouTube and may have aspirations to do so themselves, but they just have trouble getting over that hump and actually getting started because that can be a completely terrifying ordeal. For some people, they can jump on a camera, have no problem speaking whatsoever, or they can start making content and it's not a big deal. But for other people, that prospect is completely terrifying, and that's really kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Even speaking personally, that was a huge hurdle for me, and it wasn't necessarily getting in front of the camera. It was learning to interact with people online on their channels or on Twitter or on Reddit or other places where a lot of gamers hang out. That was always sort of intimidating for me. Like in person, never really had a huge problem getting to know people or just sort of being a social butterfly and all that. But when it came to interacting online, I was always pretty shy, mainly because I usually harbor this mentality that whatever I say, someone's going to think it's stupid, and then I would have to deal with that, and that's uncomfortable, so I don't want to do it. So I want to talk today about a few tips or things that I think you can do to sort of help overcome that shyness, or at least put starting a gaming channel into perspective where it's not such a daunting task, I guess. So for starters, let's see, what did I have down here? Whenever you talk about starting a gaming channel, that doesn't necessarily mean that you go 0 to 100 like instantly, right? For some people, starting a gaming channel means, okay, you already have a channel up, you know exactly what your focus is, you've already got content in mind, you've produced it, it's time to go live and publish. But there are a ton of steps that happen way before you even get to that point, and those are things that you can absolutely start on without any fear, without any worry, without any anxiety of what somebody's going to think about what you're putting out there, or who you are, or what you create. And to that end, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do that has nothing to do with actually publishing a video and getting it out there. For starters, you can come up with the idea for your channel. You can start doing research on best practices. You can, start scripting out ideas that you think will be fun, or listing out the games that you think you'd want to cover, or the type of channel that you'd like to be. Maybe you want to be a review channel. Maybe you just want to do tutorials. And, whenever it comes to that, there are so many steps that are associated with getting started on YouTube that, just making the decision to take like that tiny first step and, to start working towards it, that can actually kind of help build confidence, right? A string of small victories can really kind of give you some momentum and build you towards the act of actually publishing something for the first time and getting it out there. Sam, what's up, man? How you doing this morning? Sister Dog is laying next to me watching you with me. Also love how I now got notified about the stream. Well, that's a good thing. Fabian, what's up, man? Good morning, fellow gamers and such. Hello, Fabian. Morning, locked and tuned in. Joe Smiles, how are you doing this morning? Glad to see you. So yeah, I mean, whenever you talk about starting, that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, okay, I need to go just dive right in and put video. If you can do that, great. I think there's a lot of merit to it. But if you're somebody who's particularly shy and you're just trying to, sort of get the ball rolling, don't focus on the scariest part of the process. Rather, just focus on everything that sort of leads up to it, right? And remember, like, just because you're starting a channel doesn't necessarily mean that first video you make, like maybe that first step for you, maybe you've done all the legwork already and, you've actually managed to record something. Just because you record it and you even upload it onto the channel doesn't mean you have to put it public, right? You can keep that unlisted, you can keep it private, share it with a few friends and family, solicit feedback, and, kind of see what they have to say about it, people you are comfortable with before you necessarily, put yourself out into the world, as it were. So, and the next thing that I would say about that, aside from, just making sure you do everything in advance and, tackle those tasks first before you worry about putting a video live, is that even if you put a video live, if you're shy, and let's think, people can be shy in a lot of different arenas, right? Some people are insecure about how they look, they're insecure about how they sound, they're insecure about their accent, they're insecure about, you know, the background that they're shooting in or something like that. And that can come from a lot of different places, right? Some people just, I think, are naturally a little bit more introverted. For some people, maybe you had stuff in your history that kind of helped make you shy. You know, maybe you were bullied in high school, or maybe you grew up in an environment where, you know, your creative aspirations weren't exactly cultivated. Whatever it is, that stuff doesn't have to define you, and there are steps you can take towards starting a channel without being completely terrified by the prospect. And the other thing that I would say about that is, if you want to point to like some examples of people who also had the same thing but went on to do amazing things, kind of an old school reference. I don't know if anybody here listens to The Doors, but Jim Morrison, initially, whenever he started performing with them, wouldn't even face the crowd at first. He was kind of a shy cat, which is weird because the dude's kind of a rock icon, I guess. But, you know, initially at concerts, he would sing with his back to the crowd, so he wasn't very comfortable with it either. And I mean, I guess if I wanted to stay on the musical, right, like you could talk about Daft Punk, right? Daft Punk, they always wear like the helmets and everything. That's sort of their iconic look, and I'm sure some of that was calculated because they just wanted to, you know, have some air of mystery, and that was sort of their brand. But as an ancillary benefit, they didn't have to worry about people seeing their real faces and knowing who they were. So in that regard, you can actually make lots of gaming content and not show your face at all if that's something that gives you some anxiety, right? I mean, there are lots of people who do video game reviews, and all they do is show footage of the game, and they do a really strong narrative, and they have relevant cuts whenever they're talking about a particular aspect of that title. There are people who do like video comparisons. I mean, there are people who do tutorials and walkthrough, and none of that content really requires you to show your face. Like, you can, but you're not required to. And I mean, if you look through your own subscription feed on YouTube, not even just within the arena of gaming, but there are probably a lot of channels that you watch that don't necessarily show anybody. One of my favorites, and actually, I'll save that because it's kind of relevant to the discussion. I'll get to that in a minute. Neo, what's up, man? How you doing this morning? Topspot says, I'm shy. Hey, I can relate, man. I mean, yeah, I can definitely be shy sometimes. Whipping up 2 videos, starting my day early today, thanks to the Josh alarm. Yep, that's what I try to provide, is now it's, well, at least through Halloween, is, you know, this consistent 8 a.m. schedule. Vance, what's up, man? Identifying what makes you shy or outgoing is a cool thing to know. Absolutely. And again, it's different for everybody, right? Some things that you're shy about would sound totally weird if you tried to describe it to somebody else, and you're under no obligation to do so, but I think it makes sense to take a look at those things. I wonder why I feel awkward streaming, but do it and can do it. Yeah, and that's something that's usually helpful too. If you have the moxie to kind of get it within yourself to like push through that fear and just do it anyways, it's a great. And the way I always think of it is, when it comes to starting something like that is scary, I think about people getting into a pool, right? Some people jump right in and let the cold water just wash over them and let that system shock happen for a few seconds, and then they're good to go. Some people, you know, they'll dip like one toe in the pool and slowly make their way from the shallow end to the deep end. Ultimately, they're both making it to the same destination. How you do it is up to you. The important thing is that you get in. And that's sort of my philosophy when it comes to creating content on YouTube, or really any place where you want to put yourself out online. That's absolutely terrifying. Ron Mower, how you doing? What's up? I have a shy friend that recently started a channel. He said it was like, oh my god, that's so weird. I literally did not even read that comment yet. I was just staring into the camera, Fabian. But yeah, that's so funny. Like, I didn't see your comment, and that's exactly the analogy that I would have made. If I can start a gaming channel, anybody can, lol. Right? I mean, anybody can start one. It just, sometimes it's a little bit of a terrifying ramp up. September will be 12 years I started doing gaming. That's awesome, man. Congrats on keeping it going for 12 years. Joe says, very good points. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. I stutter when I get excited, and also I don't have a filter. And that's the thing, like, what you think, like, when it comes to, like, stuttering or your delivery, if that's something that you're self-conscious about or you worry about, Sam, like, for you might be like, oh, that sounds so stupid, like when I stutter, or if I fumble my words or something like that. I said as I fumbled my words. You know, some people will find that endearing, right? We tend to, I think, keep a perspective of ourselves and assume that same perspective is going to be applicable to literally everybody else who would ever interact with us, whether they're watching passively or they're meeting us in real life. And oftentimes that's not the case. And, you know, I think at best that's sort of naive, and at worst it's sort of arrogant, right? If you assume that everybody has the same mentality about you that you do, probably not going to be the case, right? It's you know, again, like if something happens and 10 different people saw it, you're going to get 10 different stories, and that's, you know, what you're going to get about you as a person as well. So, you know, that's something else that you can do, is realize that, you know, when you do get to the point of making content, you don't necessarily have to show your face. There's a ton of great content out there that's just narrative, or maybe it might even be that the podcast format is better for you. And I think there are a lot of podcast style pieces of content on YouTube that work perfectly well without a visual aid. In some way, one of the things I've noticed about doing these 8 a.m. live streams, I've had a lot of people say, hey, I listen to you on the way to work, or I listen to you in the background while I'm doing other things or getting ready to start my day. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's weird because originally I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do podcasts, and I was like, well, I like podcasts, I'm gonna make video because I love making video. And now it's like the answer has fallen somewhere in between, right? Like, yes, technically I'm making video right now, but it's more of a podcast format, and that's one of the things that I've sort of learned in the course of this experiment. I feel like things are starting to come full circle, which is really, really weird. So, something else that you can do is you don't necessarily have to go it alone, right? One of the things that you can do is if you've got all that legwork done and you're at the place where you're like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting, I want to pull the trigger and put out content, but I'm still a little bit freaked out by that prospect. Don't do it by yourself. Do it with a friend. See if you can get a buddy who loves video games as much as you do, or even better, another content creator who's willing to collaborate with you. And that kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off, right? Because you're not the sole focus of everybody watching. It's going to be you and a friend, somebody you trust, somebody that, encourages what you do and kind of knows what that struggle's like. So if you have somebody like that in your life, whether it's, someone who can literally just, pull up next to you and jump on the camera with you as you record, or somebody that can get in like a Discord video chat or a Google Hangout with you and do a stream that way, that can be something that takes the edge off, right? Just because you're making a channel that is yours doesn't mean that you have to be, the sole focus on that first outing. That's going to help you sort of, gain some confidence and get yourself going. Josh, what do you do if your fans are enjoying a series and it's blowing up, but you're not enjoying that game anymore for whatever reason? That's tricky. I mean, if you're not enjoying it, I mean, like, do you mean like you just don't enjoy it at all, or you just kind of like, you just want to try some other things? Because, I mean, one of the things you could do to try to satisfy both is, you do content like that occasionally, but just not as frequently as you normally did. But, if you absolutely hate it, I mean, you might have to make a hard decision and say, I'm not going to make content like that anymore, and you might lose some subscribers. But, ultimately, I think that, I think this is one of the things that I've learned, basically talking to Avedon and I would say Fabian to some degree, is that, I think that great content is almost like the gateway, right? I think people will come initially because of something that you're doing that interests them, because it's aligned with their interests, whether that's a particular game, particular genre, particular piece of information. But then I think one of the things that helps people stick around is your personality, is when they start to connect with you as a person. And I think that's another just, great reason to indulge the live format if you have the ability to do so, is because, it lets you have a back and forth dialogue with people, right? Just like we're doing right now. Fabian says, one thing to remember is that many viewers are just like us, just regular people. Many are shy themselves, just looking for fun content to watch. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that not everybody who is a consumer necessarily wants to make the leap to being a creator, but I know I've talked to a fair amount of people who do aspire to that, but it's also terrifying. Lola says, trick your friends into filming with you, right? Exactly, just manipulate all of your closest friends and be like, hey, if you still want to be friends with me, you have to jump on my YouTube channel. That's probably a terrible strategy. Hangouts aren't working anymore as far as I know. Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, there are other video chat solutions, but yeah, I mean, there are still ways you can collaborate with people online, and, make the prospect of starting that content or starting your content journey as a YouTuber, less intimidating. I would love to hear what people have to say about this topic. I plaster my face over every video thumbnail and broadcast my name on every video. Your YouTube channel boosts your personal branding. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, again, there's a lot of science behind, if you put your face, like, if you are comfortable with putting your face on thumbnails or putting yourself on camera, people tend to connect with other people more than they do, just a brand by itself. If there's a face that goes along with it, tends to be an easier connection to make. Okay, and second question, if you and your subs are enjoying a series but they want more, but it's finished, how do you drag it on without just dragging it on? So are you saying, like, what if you lock yourself into, like, a particular type of content and people like it, but you don't want to just make filler content? I would see if you could come at it from a different angle, see if you can collaborate with someone, see if you can get a completely different perspective on it. Like, if you've kind of done something to death, like, and that's kind of something that I'm going to do. Like, one of the challenges with doing this every morning at 8 a.m. is I'm not always going to have new tips and new strategy without a ton of work, and at a certain point, to mix things up, I'm absolutely bringing other people onto the channel to kind of talk about their experiences as creators in the gaming space, right? Because while I love giving my perspective, I also recognize that can be sort of narrow, right? You're only getting my perspective on things, and I think it would be helpful to kind of, broaden my horizons a little bit and get some other people like on here. Like I know GamerThumb TV, he wanted to come on at some point. Discard, who else did I have down here? Checkpoints. I think Tarks is going to come on at some point. I mean, there are, again, are about 9 or 10 people that have, agreed to come on to a stream with me and kind of talk about their perspective, mainly because I want to get to know them a little bit better, but then also because I think that their insights are also very valuable, and they can have very niche insights into their content that I don't necessarily. Again, like, I've joked and said I'm less of a gaming channel, more of a gamer with a channel, because I'm still trying to solve the problem of what is my gaming content going to be. And, I've had a few different ideas about it, but I'm still trying to get that sorted out. But I knew I didn't want to stop making content. I certainly didn't want to stop putting out helpful content if I could help it. So that's part of the reasons I'm doing this every morning at 8 a.m. Joseph asked them to engage and give feedback in comments or by messaging what direction they'd like to see from options you've given. Yeah, that, again, like, put the audience front and center. That's a great point, Joe. I don't know why that didn't occur to me. The Feral, what's up, John? How you doing, man? Appreciate you hanging out this morning. So basically at the moment I have to finish a series, but it's people asking for more, but it's naturally ending, so what do I do? I think Joe's advice is really good. If it's ending, and if your audience is into a particular type of game or format, see if there's another game or a similar format that they might also enjoy, and just see how they respond to it. If they're like, no, that's garbage, then it's back to the drawing board. Like, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges when you're a creator is, you don't always know what's going to work and what's not going to work. Even asking for audience feedback, sometimes, that can be skewed, right? If you have 1,000 subscribers, but you only have 300 people that are really, really vocal, and they tell you they want this thing, and it's the thing that the other 700 subscribers didn't want, you never know. The important thing is just that you keep going, right? I mean, I think that, again, like, don't try to make the perfect thing or the thing that you think is going to be perfect for your audience necessarily. Just make sure that you're continuing to make stuff, period. And I think that over time, it sort of shakes out and you figure out where your sweet spot is. Hello, Jay. How are you today? Dragging on a series is a horrible idea, but you don't need to make an ending video. Letting content stand by itself lets it be evergreen. I could agree with that. Kazoo, how are you this morning? So let me go ahead and get to this next point here. One of the other things that I would say is if you are shy and you're somebody who's like focused so much on what you're going to do, how you're going to get content out, how do you get to that place where you're comfortable jumping in front of the camera or just putting the content out, period, and you're getting more comfortable with your delivery and all that stuff, is to build some confidence by start contributing to the conversation on other people's channels, right? If you try to operate in a vacuum, that can almost be damaging in a way because you don't get a lot of the perspective of other people, and you don't necessarily build up that, not muscle memory, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess I would just say confidence of being able to interact with other people, because that's one thing, as your channel starts and as you start growing, you're going to want the ability to interact with the people who care about your content and the people who come back to watch what you do on a regular basis. And one of the best ways to do that is just to engage organically and naturally, sincerely on other people's channels. Now, that's not like a marketing opportunity, right? Your goal there is not to be like, hey, go look at my stuff, like, don't be a spammer. But, just in a low risk sort of way, if you see a live stream happening with a bunch of people watching it, join the live stream, man. Like, start conversations with people in the chat, and throw in your 2 cents. I mean, that's a great way to sort of get more used to interacting with people. If you're somebody who tends to be shy, not only offline but on, which is really what my problem was for a number of years, is, again, I was very, very sociable in person, but online I was just not very good at. So I started slowly, reacclimating myself to Twitter and slowly learning to comment on other people's videos and to be kind of comfortable with that. And when it comes to comments, if one of the things that you're most shy about, you're most concerned about is like, what if I put out this video and I get a bunch of trolls or a bunch of negative feedback, you can disable comments on your video. Now, I would not recommend that as a long-term strategy, but if you're just getting started and you want to be able to put something out there and not worry about the repercussions of people being like, this is garbage or whatever, even though that's the thing, trolls and legitimate critical feedback are not the same thing. If you get someone who says, hey man, maybe you can improve your lighting, that's not a troll. That's someone who just wants to see you improve. You should definitely pay attention to that and not take offense to it, but not always easy to separate those two things. But yeah, initially that's something that you can do. I mean, you have just about as much control as you possibly can over your content, how it gets distributed, who you allow to comment on it. So to that end, if that's something that's going to help you get over it and get that first video out, just disable the comments on it. Like, don't let anybody comment, and then you can kind of insulate yourself from that, and then you can ease into it, right? Do you have any experience doing or tips for Let's Plays? I don't do a lot of Let's Plays because normally I do live streams. Like, I don't really do, because, I mean, that's the differentiator, right? Live stream is where you play the game live. Let's Play is where you sort of play it solo, record it, and then put it back. One thing I think that would make sense for it is to do a highlight reel of the best moments of that, and then see if you can translate it into another platform to kind of raise awareness for it. For instance, if you do a 1-hour Let's Play of a particular game, and you have like 3 or 4 beats where something amazing happens, one, I would definitely log while you play, so something cool happens, just make a note of it. Which it can be kind of hard because if a let's play is supposed to be you being very focused on being entertaining, it might be kind of hard to do that. But even if after you're done recording it, if you can skim through and quickly find, the best action beats or the funnest emotional reaction beats that you had to a game, see if you can chunk that down and do like a 20, 30-second video, blast it out on Twitter and be like, here's the fun time that I had playing Minecraft last night or something. Um, let's see. The other thing that I would say I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I would recommend for Let's Plays. Who would be a better person to ask, honestly, would be Fabian. He's done Let's Plays as well, I think. Although he does a lot of live streams. Yeah, I mean, well, the other thing, too, is I would say that if you're doing Let's Plays and you're looking to complete a game, it might make sense to number your thumbnails, right? Let people know where they're jumping into the series, and it would probably also make sense, especially if you're doing a narrative-driven single-player experience, to kind of recap what happened in the last video, which also serves as a nice sort of call to action to tell people, like, hey, there was a video before this one, go check that one out if you want context. But then that way, if somebody's coming into the story and they just want to watch a game be completed, they have some context for where you're at in the story and what's happened so far, which I love when games offer recaps when you start back up. I feel like Resident Evil Revelations was really good at that. I had someone tell me I should make my channel Resident Evil content only. Where does this eternal wall of Resident Evil content come from? I mean, you are a fan. I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest thing necessarily, but yeah, I could see how that would be kind of limiting. Sorry to take everything. No, you're fine, Neo. No worries, man. Your mom is shy. Lol. Kazoo, that's actually... that's probably a half-truth. She can be shy, but she's ultimately pretty sociable. Throw out my 2 cents. I recommend turning Let's Plays into live streams. I replace mine with live playthroughs, and people love the interaction. Absolutely, that's one of the things that I love most about it. Being outgoing is a skill. Just got to jump off and do it. I agree. It's something you can learn slowly, or you can just dive right in. The what's wrong with your eye trolls are my favorite. I'm sure that you get a lot of trolls of that variety, Kazoo, but I mean, I've never seen it in one of your streams, but I would imagine that you handle that kind of stuff with grace, knowing the kind of person that you are. Big Glitch, what's up, man? Good morning, everyone. YourPlayerTwo stream and coffee, great way to start work. I'm glad, man. I should start drinking coffee, but alas, I remain kind of committed to the Red Bull. Keep in mind there are highly successful YouTubers who only have 9 to 15 videos and tens or hundreds of thousands of subscribers. The topic you choose determines the scope of your work. Well put. Depending on the arena in which you operate, that's going to dictate tactics. Let's see. I've noticed trolls don't bother smaller channels as much. As you grow, the troll collection grows into a... Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah, so I guess that's actually kind of encouraging if you're sort of starting out. Is the odds that you're going to get trolls is reduced somewhat, because trolls want an audience. They can't make content themselves. All they can do is try to bomb up your experience. Mad respect for what you do. I've seen your channel a handful of times, and you are awesome. She is awesome, Jay. If I live stream much better since I don't have time for editing videos anymore. I technically have time to edit videos, but again, for me, I was just really frustrated with having kind of a dearth of content. Is dearth the right word? I'll just say a lot of content available, and I was like frustrated that I couldn't get it done quickly enough. So I was like, let's just try going, direct brain to camera. Jake, and good morning, man. How are you doing? Live streams and premieres are so powerful, especially once you've built up a loyal user base. Let's Plays can be used to build up your authority. Agreed. Yeah, and that's the other thing too about having a clear focus for your channels that can help build authority more quickly if you stay in your lane, as it were. With all my yo-yo videos I've created over 15 years, I've only had one real troll. That's awesome. So yeah, one of the last point that I made was, that you can disable comments to sort of limit interaction initially if that's something that kind of freaks you out. And then finally, one of the things that I would say is, that can be a huge help is do things that you can to build your confidence off camera and try to smash that shyness down, right? I think one of the traps that people fall into, and have it on, I wish I had the setup now where I could show stuff on screen. I'm going to work on that so that next Monday it'll be a little bit more visually dynamic, instead of just, staring at my face the whole time. But he had a great tweet basically talking about the cop-out answer of, this is just who I am, and what a dangerous trap that can be. And, I think to some degree, if you're like, oh, I'm a shy person, that's just who I am. I mean, you could literally say that about any number of negative characteristics about yourself, or things that you don't like about yourself. But, you have the ability to make changes, right? So, if you're somebody who's shy, whenever you're off camera, if you're not doing YouTube work, do stuff that builds your confidence, right? Like watch movies that you find to be inspiring, listen to podcasts, watch videos that, will help you learn new things about building confidence. One of my favorite channels on YouTube right now is Charisma on Command, which sort of breaks down some of the confident and charismatic traits of a lot of, famous people like actors, actors and musicians and people like that to kind of give you some insight into, you know, how they conduct themselves, ways that they build confidence, how they tend to have more magnetic personalities, which I think is an amazing channel that everyone here should check out. If you're somebody who struggles with that, if you're looking for ways to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more confident, you know, Charisma on Command is an amazing channel that I highly recommend. Or, I mean, there's also, again, like audiobooks and podcasts that can give you tips for kind of overcoming some of that and just, you know, really just going after the things that you want in life, not even just in the YouTube arena, although for me, that's particularly helpful. One of the ones that I listened to fairly recently was Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass, which is a really, really awesome book. A little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Borderline spiritual in nature, almost in like a, not spiritual, new agey, I guess, is the way I would explain it. So I approach it with some degree of skepticism as I do a lot of new age stuff. But ultimately, there were a lot of just like sound, practical tips. And really, I think where she shines is in perceptual realignment, right? Because one of the things that she talks about is, you know, the internal, you know, monologue, the internal narrative that we tell ourselves, which is usually rooted in things like our history or the things other people have said about us, can be super negative. And in your head, you will tell yourself things that you would never tell your best friend. And if you wouldn't say those things to your best friend or somebody that you care about, certainly you should love and care about yourself enough that you would not bombard yourself with that kind of thinking ever. Very positive book. Definitely recommend that one. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Definitely solid. So yeah, those are sort of, I'll just recap these real quick and then we can hang out and talk a little bit before I gotta go to work. But yeah, again, you know, just know that starting doesn't necessarily mean published, right? You've got some flexibility there. You can work on your craft way before you worry about putting a video live. And then even once you do, it doesn't have to truly be live, right? You can leave that unpublished. You can share with a few friends and family to gain some confidence and get some feedback about what you're doing, and that might be helpful. Next up is to, you know, you don't have to show your face. There are a number of formats on YouTube, including Charisma on Command, where you don't have to see the narrator. You also have to see the person that's coming up with this content, right? You can just sort of, you know, rely on things like cutaway or other footage to roll while you deliver that message. Next up is to just, you know, again, don't go it alone. Start with a friend. See if you can collaborate with somebody, or, you know, if you have a close friend, you're like, hey, I want to just start a YouTube channel. I'm having some trouble with it though, and I want to take some of the pressure off. Would you mind jumping on it with me? That would be something that you could do. One of the other things you can do to build confidence is to start joining other communities, talking with other creators, and, you know, in a lot of cases, a lot of these creators, like myself, are completely accessible offline, or off YouTube, I should say. So, you know, a lot of people have Twitter or email or avenues by which they want to maintain communication with the people that watch their content. I certainly do. Like, if you go to my About section, you can find my email there. You can find, you know, my Twitter there if you want to, you shoot me a message on there and talk about something offline. Because not every, again, I know some people who watch this content are shy, and some people admittedly will hit me up after the fact, like, hey man, I lurk in your chat, but I dig it. So, you know, that's something else that you can do, is like start engaging with other communities of creators. Also, if you're in the retro gaming space, that would be an amazing community that you can start with, because if you go over to J Love's channel, or like Megadan, Jay, who is in the chat here, like any of those people, I can promise you, are not going to have toxic communities. I'm not going to say toxicity doesn't exist in small pockets. In every YouTube community it does, but man, if everything I've seen from the retro gaming community in particular, you would be hard-pressed to find it in most cases, and usually that kind of content, those kind of people tend to get shut down pretty quickly. And then finally, you know, there are things you can do to be less shy or to build your confidence. Again, you have the world's libraries at your fingertips through Google, right? The problems you are facing are not unique to you. Millions of people, especially even in America, there are millions of people that have some sort of, you know, generalized anxiety disorder even. So shyness is not, you know, it's not an uncommon thing. It's not something that only you're experiencing. Lots of people have found healthy ways to deal with it and sort of get through that process. So, you know, do some research. Like, you know, I mean, you know, if you think you have a serious problem with anxiety or depression or something like that, you should absolutely speak to, you know, a professional. But, you know, if you're just somebody who, you know, is just a little bit shy, and, you know, it's not like a crippling problem, but it's just something that sort of keeps you from taking that extra step to do some things you want to do, tons of resources. Like, go find, you know, blogs, podcasts, videos, watch movies, listen to inspiring music, a ton of things you can do, and probably all to your benefit. So those would be today's tips. Now I'm going to hang out in the chat and talk with you guys until I have to get out of here. And I hope everyone's having a tremendous morning. I'll be back. I'm too charismatic. You can never be too charismatic, Jakin. I think it's good. My dad says, peers through old man reading glass to consult the tome. Yes, you used dearth correctly. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Grammar police in here. Don't need Let's Plays videos to build your authority anymore. I was upset because I have a saying, monetize your haters, and I recently discovered another YouTuber has been using that since before I have. Yeah, that doesn't matter. I mean, I just used an analogy, like, and you just said the same thing in the chat, like, you know, I don't think anyone's judging me for that necessarily. Like that dude's just stealing from GamerThub. You see that? I'm going away and only just clocked on. I've got 15 videos pre-recorded, and I've just got an eye infection. That's rough, man. But at least you've already got 15 that are in. I wish I was a kid too, and I outgrew it naturally for some reason. Now I love talking to people. Yeah, I could absolutely be shy when I was a kid as well. Turn him into a meme, I say at the end of every stream. Any wet food on hand? Yellow kazoo. I can't find my cat, driving me nuts. What? You lost Cappy? That's incredibly irresponsible, Kazoo. You are badass is a lot of common sense things I've heard. Yeah, it does, but like sometimes you need to hear common sense things. It's the same way people are just like, oh, that's just a horrible cliche. Some things are horrible cliches because they're true. We just don't want to believe them because we're predisposed to just dismiss anything that's a horrible cliche. And it's probably not always warranted. No, I don't do New Age stuff. I will say Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass has some New Age stuff in it, so depending on your feelings about that, you may be apprehensive, but despite the fact that I was apprehensive about it, I still found a lot of value out of that book. And yeah, some of it's common sense, but some of it were things that I had never considered before, and I think it's worth it. Same Game with Thumb 8-Bit, thank you for the sub, means a lot. Well, that's nice. Well, my friend, I gotta head out, get ready for the day, have a great rest of your stream, and keep making great content, everyone. Thank you so much, Peril. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you. It's been a minute. What? Russ Lyman is so helpful. Yes, he is. He has a lot of good tips over on. We did a collaboration at least once where we did I think it was tips for pickups. I'm trying to remember exactly what that video was, but yeah, Russ is a solid, supportive dude. Josh, that's another thing. Sorry, I have another question. No, don't be sorry. Ask away, man. I will do my best to answer it or direct you to a smart person. Recently, I've been trying to promote my Twitter, but failing. What can I do to help with that? How are you doing it on Twitter? Like, how many tweets do you send a day, and what do your conversations look like there? Do you just go out on Twitter and blast out your videos and you're like, hey, go watch this? Finding people who love your niche is such an awesome reward. Absolutely. I would 200% agree with that sentiment. Took me 5 years to find my... Dude, yeah, and that's the thing, that's why I always advocate, just keep going with your content, right? Because it's not necessarily that, when you choose a direction, oh, you're going to be successful and that's 100% going to be the thing that you win at. In a lot of cases, it will be the thing that you win at. But by continuing to make progress and move, even when you're not 100% certain of the answer, because nobody really is, that's usually what creates the stepping stone that helps you find what you're supposed to be doing. The more I do this, the more I wonder if, whenever I started making content on a regular basis with a particular focus over the past 18 months, that was just the beginning and possibly only the stepping stone that got me to this place. And maybe moving forward, I'm very much a live streaming channel. Maybe not exclusively, but maybe it gets to the place where YourPlayerTwo is 80 to 90% streaming. And that's predominantly what I do here. I don't have the answer, but I know that, push come to shove, I'm going to be here at 8 a.m. every day for the next couple of months. So... because there are times when I'm like, ooh, this topic sucks, I shouldn't even go live today, maybe I should just axe it, but I force myself to do it anyways. Puzzle Solver, what's up, man? Thank you for coming back again. Neo, I just started Twitter as well, so good question. Now I've got, let me do, what? Wait, hold on. Got to do 15 videos. I blast my videos and some general stuff to use to promote for updates and keeping people in the loop. I'll look at your Twitter here in a little bit, but the biggest thing about Twitter is to not use it exclusively as a billboard. I've said this over and over again. Twitter is it's a cocktail party, not a billboard, right? If you have the ability to start real conversations with people, you will get a lot more traction on Twitter. If you're just a regular, down-to-earth person who talks to a lot of people who share the same interests as you, and you kind of get involved in the conversation, right? In a good rule of that, one of the things that I do is I try to do a ratio where it's maybe I'll do one promotional tweet a day, but then I'll do 7, 8, 9, 10 that have nothing to do with me, and they have everything to do with other people, replying to what they say on Twitter, or just putting out content that is also helpful on Twitter, right? Sometimes I'll blast out tips there that don't necessarily need a full video, but I'll just put them out in written form. Finally found out I'm running with it. Oh no, I've got to do them. I've got to do 15 videos. She's hiding. Oh, Cappy's still hiding from you? Any upcoming Switch games that you're excited about? Yes, Astral Chain on Friday. I'm super excited for that. Also, I did pick up at least one Switch game at Southeast Game Exchange, which I'll talk about in the pickups video. But beyond that, we've got Zelda coming out. Luigi's Mansion's going to be coming up as well. And there are a few that, if you named a few, I can tell you if I am excited about them, because now I'm struggling to remember, even though I know we've got a massive amount of games coming out in September, and then, obviously then we start getting into the holiday season when it's going to be even worse. So there's a lot. Where am I? Megadam, what's up, man? I want to kiss Megadan, just saying. I hear he's good at it. I'm at work, but I will stay as long as I can. Right on. I appreciate you swinging by, dude. And again, always awesome to hang out with you now that, Southeast Game Exchange is becoming a pretty regular thing at this point. New says, I've been wanting to get my subs over to my Twitter, but not working. Well, where do you have the larger following? Do you have a larger following on YouTube or Twitter? Because you might be looking at it backwards. It might be that, you bring people from Twitter over to your YouTube channel. Now, because, really, yes, there's advantage to bringing people from one platform to another, but, if they come to your Twitter, what's the value that you're putting there? Because if the only thing you're doing on Twitter, or if the predominant thing you're doing is just blasting out your YouTube videos and, not engaging in a lot of conversations with people, they may see your Twitter and be like, maybe this isn't for me. I'm already getting this content from the originating platform. Link's Awakening? Yes, Link's Awakening I'm 200% getting. I pre-ordered it yesterday. YourPlayerTwo is definitely not shy. His face covers 1/3 of the screen. The only person I see cover more than 1/3 of the screen consistently is, Nick Nimmin? Yeah. He is incredibly great. And he actually gave me feedback on my channel one time whenever I dropped in on one of his Saturday live streams, which that's another creator you should be checking out. Nick Nimmin puts a ton of great stuff out there. Shinobi Soup, we're going to meet you at SEGE. Wait, Shinobi Soup? Did I miss somebody? Henceforth, you shall be Darth Vader. Thanks, Dan. Show me your... Come on, Dan. You know I try to keep it family friendly. You can't be saying stuff like that in my morning live stream. I've barely had a full can of Red Bull yet, man. It's too early for that kind of talk. And Vance, I can be shy, but usually I'm not shy on camera. Usually I'm more shy on social media. Like, what if I say that and people think I'm stupid? Or what if people think I'm, too over the top, like Joey Bomb with a lot of my, inspirational stuff I put out on Twitter. But more and more as I've done it, I think one of the things that I've learned about that process is if people don't like it, they can go somewhere else. It's a big internet. I'm not going to please everybody. As Avedon put it, even Michael Jackson, who was probably the most famous person on the planet in his heyday, not everyone liked Michael Jackson. So if not everyone liked, the King of Pop, I'm probably not going to be universally liked as much as I would enjoy that. Or maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. Gotta go, guys. Dan, thanks for hanging out a little bit, man. I appreciate you. Despite your incredible intro, which I almost read on the stream, but I will not. I think it's because if I do updates there and my subs don't see it, I'm really worried about that. What kind of updates are you worried about them missing? Could you just not make a quick update video too? Like, if it's something really important, are you putting out so many updates that they have to see it? I would think that, if you have a ton of updates there would have to be a way to roll. You could do a regular live stream or just do a channel update live stream every Friday at a certain time or something. That way you could keep people informed. If they follow you, great. If they don't, not a whole lot you can do about it. NES, what's happening? I can't wait for the next Nintendo. I need to catch up on those. I feel bad, Jay. I will do so today. I filmed 2 8-bit glitch, so coming soon with special guest. I have a sneaking suspicion who that special guest might be, Jay. Yes, Kirk, definitely pump for Astral Chain. Shinobi says, NES, I was at Pixel Game Squad's panel. I guess RGT85 correctly. I'm trying to remember. I could probably go back and look at some of the footage I shot there, Shinobi. But I'm glad you're here to hang out, man. I hope you had a blast at Southeast Game Exchange. I'm assuming you did. I have this idea for a special series on my channel, but just gotta find the time to script and film at least the first episode. Yeah, you could always film a pilot. 8-bit, I'll sub you back and check out your stuff later. Oh, nice, Shinobi Soup. I'm in the process of trying to narrow my channel down. You see, yeah, and again, I'm a big advocate for that. I think that focusing initially makes it a lot easier to make an impact and kind of grow a following, and then if you want to slowly branch out later on, I think that becomes more viable, because again, if this was the mistake I made, with NES Annex saying, it took me 5 years to find my focus, it took me, a decade, almost a decade plus to really figure out what I was doing. Mainly because I loved making video, and that wasn't the problem. I loved the process, because if I did love the process, there's no way I would have uploaded 950-ish videos over the past decade. But ultimately what I found was, as soon as I started focusing down, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on video games, and I'm going to focus even tighter on, video game creators and putting helpful content out for them. That's when I really started to see more results. That's when I really started to see growth. But before that, again, the random nature of my content made it very difficult to build a subscriber base or, a following of people who really appreciate what I did, because usually the thing that drew them in or the thing they were interested in, I would not make follow-up content on. So if I was like, ooh, here's my Web of Spider-Man collection, and then for 3 weeks all I do is talk about how great the 360 is. There wasn't a lot of incentive for someone who came for comic book stuff to stick around. So now I have a very clear focus, and now I can say, well, I have a clear focus, but I'm still tweaking it. Like, there's still work to be done there. But what I will say is it's a lot tighter than it used to be, and that makes it a lot easier for me to say no to things. Like, if I've had someone be like, hey, I want to collaborate, let me come on your channel and we'll talk about comic books. I'm like, absolutely not. I don't talk about comic books here. This is a video game channel. Kind of. Well, I should probably add that. Like, it's sort of a video game channel. I'm new and I had a great time. I'm glad you had a great time, man. I had a great time as well. Mostly going to panels. Like, I didn't spend nearly as much time at vendor booths as I have in the past. I'll be waiting and watching 8-Bit Glitch, and it's paying off, which is amazing. YourPlayerTwo. I remember I met you when you just dropped the Geeks Podcast name. I think it was, it was Geeks Podcast. That was the original brand, and it was really just because I thought it was a cool name, and because, again, it doesn't even technically make sense, because at the time when I got the domain, I was doing more blogging than anything when geekspodcast.com was still up, and then I really didn't do much of a podcast. Like, it was a cool name, but completely not reflective of anything that I was doing at the time. And I think the reason is for whatever reason, I like doing editing and post-production and tidying up the story for a video, but when it comes to audio editing and podcasting, that is so not appealing to me. Like, I don't mind jumping on a mic and talking. I'll happily jump on a podcast, but when it comes to post-production or editing, editing audio is like the least appealing thing in the world to me. It's boring, and I hate it, and it's not like video where I can scrub through and kind of see what's happening visually or get an idea of where we're at in the narrative. So yeah, not a big fan of podcasting. At least not. Let me change that again. I'm not a big fan of all of the additional work you have to do for podcasts. It's just work I don't enjoy. Video editing, love it. Audio editing, that's a hard pass. Would love to know your thoughts on the Oddities video, Josh. Constructive criticism is welcome. I will do so. I'll also I did DM you something specific to Creepy Todd. I didn't share it out, but I thought you would like to have it. It was from the panel, actually. Heading out, guys. Got to get back to work. 8-Bit Glitch. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out before work today. I appreciate you. I love YourPlayerTwo is awesome because you're like the one in the passenger seat helping guide us through all the YouTube traffic. Again, like, that's really my goal, right? But the thing that always scares me, and one of the things that Avedon helped put that fear to rest, was I never want to be a guru, right? I never want to be someone who's like, I have a single silver bullet to all of your YouTube problems. Everything is going to be fine because of something that I give you. No, I think I can put stuff out that's valuable, but it's stuff I've just sort of learned on my own journey, right? I'm not rocking 100,000 subs over here, right? I'm still playing at a lower level, so to speak. But, I think that sharing information, documenting the process, I think all of these things are good things that help build connection with your community. At least I hope that's what I'm doing right now. And then, beyond that, I've just never been a fan of people, and this happens even in my day job, specifically in the IT industry. People will hoard information. They find stuff that works, or they find solutions to problems, they find better ways to do things, and then they want to protect it, and they want to hold on to it so tight, because they're like, if I share it, what if the competition gets a leg up on me, right? Or like, what if I share it out, and then I'm not as valuable anymore? But I think that's completely counterproductive. I think people tend to value people who are willing to share information or share their experiences way more than the guy who's just an insufferable know-it-all who wants to keep all that stuff to himself, right? Sharing those things, I think, is an absolutely good thing. Could be wrong, but time will tell. Collabs are a great way to expand your brand into, if you want to grow into comic books, jump into channels with people who have already done the work. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I would never do that, but yeah. My channel name just sounded good to me, and later I realized it's an actual medical condition. Yeah, actually, that's something I would like to talk about, or I'm hoping, like, whenever we get you on a live stream with you, man, is to just kind of talk about, like, your history with the channel, like, kind of like, where you came from, where the idea originally, was incepted, where you're at with your content now, where you're going, and what people can expect. Like, I'm really excited to start that series, and part of the reason I haven't yet is because I have some technical details to iron out, but then also a little bit of shyness and fear on my part, right? I mean, it can be scary going solo on a live stream, but then also, with another person in the mix, I have to make sure I'm paying enough attention to you as the guest, but then also not neglect the chat, and I have to figure out where the balance is, right? Like, I want the chat to be engaged, but at the same time, I don't want to be so engaged with it that I'm completely neglecting the primary focus of that video, which is to get your insights and what you bring to the gaming community. So, some things I have to work through, but it's probably going to be one of those things where, much like this format, I'm just going to have to take the leap and get over it. The name, I need to get on that. Similarly, I'm always open to anyone who wants to collaborate with me to talk about mini consoles. The street works both ways. I will keep that in mind the next time I procure a mini console, Vance. Even if you take advice, or you're always gonna do it your way and tweak it a bit. Nearer tips for the day. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, like, again, like, not every piece of advice is applicable to everyone. I tell people, like, even the advice I give out on this channel, take it with a huge grain of salt. And if I say something and you're like, that's objectively wrong, I have something that shows that, tell me about it. I'm happy to correct course if you can tell me if I'm doing something horribly incorrect. You know, it's good to listen to feedback. You're like a smaller Brian G. Johnson. I don't know that have I watched Brian G. Johnson? I bet I have, and I'm not remembering. Hold on a second. Brian G. Johnson. You know what's weird is I've seen his face before, but I've never watched a single video for Brian G. Johnson. If I did, it was by accident. Probably because he was not by accident, like, ooh, I would never watch that on purpose. I mean, like, he probably showed up in a collaboration with somebody else, and I might have seen him there, but I've never watched a Brian G. Johnson video, so I'll have to check it out. Trying to get a bunch of content this week before the tropical storm gets here, praying I don't lose, but yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, you've got environmental reasons to batch film and load up on content. The guests you're going to have you got them all planned out? Obviously, much more down the line. Would love to have a chat with you on stream. Yeah, we can talk about it. I need to get to know you a little bit better. You know, so no offense. I mean, so far as I can tell, you're a really good dude. But you know, I rarely commit to things on stream anymore, just because sometimes I've done that and it's gotten me in trouble. No offense to you, Neo. I think you're great. I'd love to talk with you on stream. My YouTube origin story is crazy, lots of ups and lots of downs, and that's tremendous, right? Like, people get so caught up, like oh, my story's gonna have some downbeats. YouTube's gonna be really hard. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard, but it's also a great story, right? If you're the hero of your own story, you would never read a story or watch a movie about somebody who everything just goes perfectly for them the whole time, because it's not interesting. It's not relatable. It's way more interesting to hear the story of somebody who's like, yeah, I got YouTube success, but it took me like 9 straight years of super hard work to do it, and it took years of self-doubt and struggle and strife and not knowing what the heck I was doing. Then it is just be like, oh yeah, you know what, I uploaded a video and then I got 1 million subscribers and life's been pretty great. I wouldn't want to watch that story. I think most people wouldn't want to watch that story. Checkpoints, what's up, man? Hey Josh, what's up, dude? It's my birthday and now I'm a big boy. Nathan, happy birthday, my friend. I hope it is a wonderful, wonderful day. Also, if you're in this chat right now and you value video games and hilarity, please go check out the Checkpoint Show. He is an absolute gem of a man. He's wonderful. Totally hear you out, man. Right, I appreciate him. Again, it's not a slight against you. It's just, you got to be careful. There's crazy people on the web. You saw Megadan pop in here and what he led with. Actually, Megadan's an absolute sweetheart. He's great, but he's just also hilarious, I think. If YouTube was easy, everybody would be doing it right. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people, again, in lots of different arenas, are like, I love the idea of success, but they don't want to put in the work. And that's fine, but I think it's important to be honest with yourself. Like, some people are like, yeah, I really want that thing, but they won't take a single step to get there. And, to the point of this video, if that thing holding you back is shyness, there are options for you. There are ways to get over that, whether that's, through personal development that you do on your own time, or specifically within the arena of YouTube. If you just take tiny, tiny steps, or you realize that as long as you're moving the ball down the field a little bit, that's still progress, that's fantastic. You just described the difference between a DC superhero and a Marvel superhero. The vulnerability of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is what makes... Yes, absolutely. And I think that even in the comic book days, for a lot of those characters, before the MCU was even a thing, I think that was one of the reasons that Marvel tended to do so well. They had very flawed, very real characters. Like, Spider-Man's probably one of the easiest references you can point to, but, like, he would have to make decisions like, ooh, I can stop the bank robber, or I can take Aunt May her prescription medication. Like, when you're presented with those kind of choices, those are things that humans can relate to. If you just have somebody like Superman, who's basically invulnerable, doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses, save for kryptonite, not as relatable for me, never was. But, whenever you look back at the Marvel stable of heroes, whether that's, Bruce Banner, trying to wrestle with the fact that, yes, he can do great things as the Hulk, but at the terrible cost of the toll it takes on his psyche, and obviously the personal problems that causes, constantly turning into a giant green hulking monster. Or Tony Stark, who was, brilliant playboy, industrialist, which is weird, because his character was made at a time when that should have been the most frowned upon, not loved character ever. But Stan Lee made it work, and that he had his struggles with alcoholism. Shinobi says equipment is holding me back. Also, just a bit of shyness. Well, how is equipment holding you back, Shinobi? I would be curious. Like, is there a particular format that you're trying to do that you can't do with just a phone that you need some more equipment? Because, I'm a huge advocate for if you've got a functioning phone and it works, man, you can record video, it's going to look better than a lot of stuff from just even a few years ago in a lot of cases. So, if that's the only thing holding you back, aside from a little bit of shyness, is like, oh, I need, a really fancy camera or some expensive production equipment, dude, you can find a way to get started with what you got, I promise. And if you don't have a camera, it'll be more difficult, but even without a camera, theoretically, you could probably use video editing and creative use of even still images to make some great content. I've seen people do that as well. It may be my birthday, but I'm still editing my Control review. I picked up Control, and I was thinking about you yesterday. I started playing it with my buddy Ben. We were going to stream it, but ultimately decided against it, because then we after we played it a little bit, we ended up watching Clown, which I'd never seen, which is a horror movie about a clown. Well, sort of. And it was actually way better done. Weirdly enough, you know who directed the movie Clown? This movie that I was like, that's, no pun intended, clown shoes. I don't want to watch Clown. That's just schlocky B-movie horror, and, it's probably not going to be that great, mainly because I was afraid of it. I just didn't want to admit that. But the dude who directed Spider-Man, Homecoming, and Far From Home is the guy that did Clown, which that blows my mind that Marvel, with these multi-million-dollar properties they have, they're not like, okay, we need to find a director who has a lot of experience with action and superhero movies. Like, let's get Michael Bay. No, they're just like, have you done something sort of kind of rad? Oh, you guys directed episodes of, you wrote and directed Community? That's cool. We'll just let you handle the Avengers then. That's crazy. Or like Watiti, like, oh yeah, we saw that movie you did about the three vampires that, kind of live together in an apartment. We would love for you to take on Thor's third entry. That's tremendous to me. Like, I love that Marvel has this mentality that, like, they're like, you don't have to be old hat at action movies or superhero lore or something. Just if you do something that's singularly kind of awesome, then they want to work with you, which I think that's a tremendous approach. Jesus, time management is my biggest challenge. I'm currently trying to get to bed at 8:30 so I can get up at 4 a.m. to work out and get YouTube stuff done now. Time and family is my biggest hurdle. Yeah, and you're probably a prime candidate for whenever you can find those few hours to batch film, man. See if you can knock out 3 or 4 of them, but I'm guessing you're already doing that. People relate to Batman because the majority of people are cool. I have a good heart and love gadgets. Right on. I also am a big fan of gadgets, my friend. No PC, no camera, but that's true. I do have a phone. Yeah, dude, if you have a phone, I mean, you could go live right now if you wanted to. Batman is a lot darker and more in depth than I Am Batman. That's true, he is. Is that the movie where he eats that kid? Yeah, that's the movie. It is crazy, because I just watched it yesterday, and I was like, I don't want to watch this, but can we just watch something happier? Because normally I like horror movies, but every now and then he'll bring one over that I'm like, ooh, creepy clown. I don't know if I want to deal with that today. I'm fine with It. Mostly the It Chapter 2 trailer is terrifying to me as well, but yeah, after watching Clown, I was like, I cannot believe this is the same cat that did Spider-Man. I grew up on Adam West Batman, and he dresses in bright, not so dark blue. Yeah, Adam West Batman's a very different type of Batman, but fun in its own sort of campy way, I think. I'm thinking of editing/uploading from something more official feeling than my phone. Then I'll feel more confident making and posting content. I get it. And that's the thing, like, if that's something, if it's holding you back, but it's something that you're like, oh yeah, I can get over that, in a week or a month or something like that, where it's not too far out, just don't make the mistake I did, Shinobi, and that is overproducing or getting basically so wrapped up in making sure that everything looked perfect that I just stopped making content. For me, it became a procrastination tool. Production became procrastination, because I would basically tell myself, like, well, I would love to make this video today, but the lighting's not exactly right, or, I don't know if this camera's really capturing my artistic vision, and then I realized what a bunch of hypocritical nonsense that was, for me anyways, because I've always been a proponent of content value is greater than production value. Obviously, this is not the best production ever. Like, yes, I've got a fairly decent camera for capturing the stream, but ultimately, this is not an overly interesting backer, right? You got a bookshelf, like I got some games hanging out there, but, it's not, and even earlier on, if you watch some of my earlier videos from last year, Shinobi, you'll find that I had this really cool, like, kind of red and purple background, and it was funny because I would have people tell me, like, oh, like, is that a studio you built? And I was like, no, that's about $50 worth of materials. All I did was just get a couple of sheets of, like, foam core, and then I literally glued foam panels to it that I ordered from Amazon for, like, $20, stuck it in a corner, pointed the camera at it, and then I just sort of went to work. It looked nicer, but ultimately, anybody could have made that backdrop with about $50. I'm a perfectionist too, so it's good to hear that from you. Need to get past that, I guess. Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with trying to make a nice looking video. I think that's great, and production value is one of those things that can visually distinguish you from other creators. It shows you're dedicated to your craft. That shows that you're willing to make improvements to whatever it is that you put out there. I'm just saying, don't let it become so dire that you're like, I'm not going to do anything. Or if you're like, hey, I really want to up my production value so I can get started for 6 months, don't let it get to that place. Like, you know, you have, I'm sure, tremendous insights about whatever your channel is going to be about. You know, don't let your ability to share that content and get it out and start talking, start building relationships with people, be limited by the fact you're like, my camera needs a few more megapixels before I can do that. Because that's kind of the place that I got to, and it held me back for a long time. Too long. Where am I at? I know that trick of filming multiple vids, but need to practice it more. Yeah, I mean, it's helpful, and that's, you know, for me, the problem is, even though I'm a proponent of batching, is I got to an unhealthy place with it, and that's, again, one of the things that precipitated me doing these live streams, is I was spending so much time maintaining the process or the production schedule that I was spending more time doing that than making content, and I got frustrated because I was like, there's got to be a better way, so I was like, boom, we'll experiment. If it does, and then I was like, ooh, I could try live streaming only, but I was like, ooh, but that wouldn't work. What if it doesn't work? And then I was like, you could try it. There's no reason I have to do it forever. If I try this experiment for the next 3 months and it's garbage and people hate it and I hate it by the end of it, I can always switch to something else. You know, for me, again, the thing that I forced myself to adopt was not important that I get the answer perfect, not important that I get it perfectly right. The important thing is that I keep going, and that is what I am doing. I miss the foam. I like the foam. The foam is down in my laundry room right now. I learned that as a creator, you'll nitpick your content way more than your audience will, so always work with what you have. Sound advice. Could not agree more. Thank you, dude. SCGE was a springboard for inspiration, especially meeting some content makers face to face. That is awesome, man. I'm gonna go hit up your channel, Shinobi, so I can keep an eye on you, not in a creepy way, but congratulations. Ooh, I think I might be your first subscriber, Shinobi. That is excellent. I'll be keeping an eye out. Memories when I was Easy Grammar, aka Neo. Mistakes were made. Conventions really are a battery charge. They are, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, as soon as, like, I came back, and even though I was sad to like leave all my friends and everything behind to get back to the Columbus area, which I've got friends here too, but you know, to leave all the hyper focused YouTube creator friends, like, that was sort of you know, a massive recharge for me, right? Hugely inspirational to see all these people coming together and working on things. A lot of fun. Absolutely enjoyed it. You're very welcome. I'm curious to see what you turn out, man. I will be looking for that first video, Shinobi. So will I, says Vance. Then I'm second Shinobi, just subbed. Look at that. You haven't even made anything and you're getting subscribers, and I think that is a real testament to the point that I'm making here, because you almost literally did it verbatim, where I said if you were shy, and you even said yourself you had a little bit of shyness, you came over here into a live stream, started talking to some other people, some other creators, and this thing, you weren't like real spammy about it, just, you know, you talked about legitimately what you wanted to do, you know, what some of your problems were, and naturally, a lot of the wonderful people in here are willing to support you for that, right? Not a sub for sub type situation, just literally seeing a new creator who is going to be on the rise and making something new, and people that want to see you succeed. Congratulations, that is tremendous. Josh, I gotta head off, have a good one. Gotta run, Josh. Love you, bro. Love you too, Jay. You take care, man. Y'all are awesome. Alright, actually, I have to give it too now that I think about it. I've got work starting in a few minutes. But, thank you guys so much for hanging out this morning. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to kind of hang out and do these live streams every morning. If you are new here, you know, and you like content like this, it's going to be coming out every day, 8 a.m. Eastern, every weekday, through Halloween at the very least. And, you know, this is going to be a place to talk about community, tactics, strategy, tips, things that are helpful for, you know, video game content creators. That's kind of home for me. And then more video game content will be coming, but usually I do that in the form of video game live streams, which happen in the evenings. And also, don't forget, it's Wednesday. Multiplayer live stream happens tonight on the channel at 9 o'clock Eastern. I'll be putting out a poll for that here in a little bit. But yeah, I appreciate it immensely. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you soon. All right, bye.